Okay, so our next technique is what I call channel quilting. It's a grid pattern. So you've completed your top, you've pieced it with your 1/4-inch foot with the blade on it. Now you need to quilt. And quilting is, we have backing, we have batting, and then I have my top. This is just my sample piece. Channel quilting is literally straight lines. When we're quilting, because we have the 3 layers, you must always use a walking foot. You never use a standard foot. So here's mine with my 1/4-inch with my blade on it. Because I have 3 layers here, this is going to bunch, and then you'll have 1 layer offset from the top layer. This is why we have a walking foot. This is a standard walking foot that you can get in the Brother Quilting Accessory box. Now with this model, they actually have what's called a Move It foot. This is the Move It foot. And the difference about the Move It foot is that this will plug in to a port located on the back of your machine, and it will actually move on the top at the same speed your feed dogs are moving. So literally, it's moving in time with your feed dogs. This is an option on this machine. Highly recommended. This is amazing. It's called a Move It foot. But for our purpose today, I'm going to show you how to use the walking foot. Okay, we're now going to install the walking foot on here. Now this machine here has a high shank, and in your accessory kit, you will have received a shank adapter. So we're going to put this on the shank, and you'll notice that it's curved on one side and flat on the other. And the curved side goes towards the bed of the machine. So we'll put that on. Put the screw in and just thumb tighten that. And you will have received another thumb screw in your kit that came with the machine. So the lobster claw goes over the needle bar, and the additional thumb screw goes into the new bottom hole. Now here is my sample. Now I'm going to be doing channel quilting. So whenever you're quilting, you go one way, then the other way, and then go the opposite way. Do not quilt the same way. If you quilt something the same way, you'll end up having on the right side, it'll be a little longer than the left side. That's because you've sewn all in that one direction. It's very important to alternate your direction when you're quilting. So, I'm now quilting. I want to use slightly different thread to quilt with. Because we like to see our quilting, I would go to an embroidery thread, which is a 40 weight, a decorative thread. So I'm going to change my machine so that I'm using an embroidery thread. And I'm using an isocord embroidery thread, which is a 40 weight. So because you like to see your quilting, this is why we use a 40 weight. I never use the same piecing thread for quilting because that thread is fairly thin. So now I'm ready to thread my machine. And on this model, we actually have a needle threader button. And just like that, it's threaded. So we're going to do channel quilting in here. I have drawn a vertical and horizontal line approximately halfway. So you notice that my needle is over to the left position. I'm going to move it to the middle again. One of the things that you want to change when you're quilting, you typically would like a longer stitch length. because you want your stitches to show. Our default is 2.5. Let's make it 3.5. Now I'm going to stitch right down the middle of my drawn line. Get to the end, cut your thread, and then we'll do this line. Try to stay on the line. Yeah. So now we want to do our next set of lines, and I want my lines to be 1 inch apart. So I'm going to show you something really cool. It's this little thing. Most people get this with their machines and they have no idea what it's for. This will actually tell me to line up on the previous row of stitching, and it actually goes into the back end of our foot, of our walking foot. You have a little hole in the back here. That's where this thing goes. It can go in the right side or in the left side. Now with some of our machines, depending on the model, you may get a couple of these. Sometimes you get a shorter one or a longer one, or both. So I'm going to put this in on my right side, although it doesn't really matter. And what I would like is I want my stitching 1 inch apart. So here is my ruler. So we can see that my stitching line here, I want this line right on this 11 line. Yeah, it's 1 inch apart now. So as long as I have my previous stitching on this here, I'll always be 1 inch apart. You don't have to mark your entire top. Let's put my little bar down, foot down. And again, I always like to have my top thread underneath my foot so I don't get a nest. So we're going to go ahead and stitch, and I'm keeping this right on my previous stitching. Now I could have made that 1.5 inches, 2 inches apart, 1 3/4. So I'll go down to the end here, cut my threads. Remember I said you need to go opposite ways, so this one I went that way. Now this one I'm coming this way. Keeping in mind I'm watching right here. So I'll do 2 lines of that, then I'll turn it around and do 2 lines of this. Very important to alternate. So I went this way, and then I came this way. So I go this way, and then go down this way, and then back up this way. You'll always keep alternating, and then you'll have a grid pattern. This is great if you're making placemats, because placemats have to stand up to a lot of washing, a lot of wear and tear. So using a grid pattern, or channel quilting I refer to it, is really a great way of quilting it.